Let's first start with your expectations of KTM Dude, and how big do you think this could be for Bajaj Auto?
Well, the Duke that we've launched last month is the first KTM ever to be launched in India. We actually started manufacture of the Duke we developed last year, about a year back, and we've been exporting it to Europe for a year now. So finally it's here in India. It's hard to say, to forecast volumes, but I will say this, that the space in which the Duke is positioned is currently a segment that's about 5,000 motorcycles a month. So I hope that our anticipated volume of 20-25,000 Dukes for the first year out of the 30 dealerships that we have, 32 to be precise, would be realized over the course of the next financial year.
Rajiv, hi, morning. So would you be putting up additional facilities as well to cater to the kind of target that you have in KTM Duke?
No, we actually have been producing the Duke at our plant in Jharkhand that makes our Pulsars and the Avenger motorcycle. To put it simply, we follow a platform strategy where facilities and a lot of the processes are common between high-end motorcycles like the Pulsar and the Duke. So we don't need to really put up significant additional facilities for the Duke. And in effect, therefore, the economies of scale that we have with the Pulsar, we lend to the Duke, which is why, in my view, we have an outstanding price of the Duke at about 1.17 lakhs ex-showroom. And yet we are able to stay, in the operating margin zone of 20%. And the reason for that is because of the huge economies of scale that come from this platform approach.
Let me ask you something which is of immense market curiosity. Is the entire Indian two-wheeler market now getting slightly more competitive, more competition, and the base effect?
Yes, I think it's been getting more and more competitive all the time. I don't see anything particularly different in recent months or over this year. And quite frankly, from my point of view, the competition is a good thing because increased competition only leads to greater segmentation. When consumers have a lot of choices, they appreciate something that is sharper and more purposeful. And that's why you will see that this year, for example, has continued to be a very good year for Bajaj, not only in terms of growth, but in fact in terms of profitability, because when consumers are, let's say, motivated by sharper products to make sharper choices, they invariably choose something that's a little better, even if it's a little more expensive. And that's why even in the last quarter, we are able to actually increase our EBITDA to 21%. So frankly, there's always two sides of the coin to everything. And there's a positive side to the competitiveness coin as well.
Rajiv, since we're talking about competition, Honda showcased their new bike at the Auto Expo this time around, Dream Yuga. Your reaction, and could it dent the market share for you in any manner?
Well, I'm not going to comment on someone else's product, except to say that I don't like the name too much, but that's for them to decide. When we at Bajaj look at a new product, we have learned to look beyond just the physical product. Because we think that we are more of a marketing company than an engineering company. And what I mean specifically by that is this, that when we look at the product, we try to ask ourselves, what kind of category is this product trying to create or serve? If a product's trying to create a new category, for us that's very important, because that might be something we have to contend with in the future. But if a product is merely seeking to participate in or to serve an existing category, we don't care too much about it, because our experience tells us that consumers are not really turned on by Me Too offerings in this market. In that sense, the Honda bike that I see, in my view, seeks to merely participate in a category that was created by their erstwhile partner Hero, which Hero dominates even today. And if I ask myself, what does this Dream Yuga offer that a Splendor or a Passion does not, I don't find anything obvious, at least. So in that sense, I'm personally not very enthused by this motorcycle. Having said that, there's no doubt that Honda is a competitor that none of us can ignore. But let's also consider that, for example, Honda did make a scooter called the Eterno to compete with the Chetak. That went nowhere. In 2004, Honda put out a Unicorn to compete with the Pulsar. That went nowhere. So just because it's a Honda, it doesn't necessarily have a license to succeed.
Rajiv, if I look at your operating profit margins, they are higher than the industry. So I won't ask you why your margins are higher. Let me rephrase my question. And my question is that what is your competition doing wrongly that they are not able to command high operating profit margins like Bajaj?
Why do you want me to tell them that?
Why would he let out his
simply,
secret?
the answer is this, that's right. It is true that 70% of the cost of a two-wheeler or car is the material cost. And invariably, there is always focus on commodities and things like that. The reality really is, nobody buys material any cheaper than anyone else. Nobody employs engineers cheaper than anyone else. Nobody gets land free anymore, at least. And we all pay the same for the electricity we use. What makes the difference, if you look at the results, is the money that companies have to spend to sell the products that they make. And that is where our EBITDA is higher than, let's say, an industry average of about 12% by a good 7 or 8%, because we spend that much less trying to sell what we make. Or let's put it the other way, we don't make what consumers don't want to buy. We believe less is more. We stay with the brands that we have that dominate their categories, be it a Pulsar, be it a Discover, or the three-wheeler that we sell under the brand RE. And systematically over the years, over the last 10 years or so, whether it's our geared scooters like Chetak or Super, the step-through MAT, the little scooterets like Sunnies and Spirits, and even some of the three-wheelers like our front-engine auto rickshaws. We've slowly done away with all of that. In the process, that has helped us to cut costs internally also by shutting down plants, rationalizing the supply chain and all that. But the most important thing it has done for us is, it helps us cut back on marketing and sales expenditure. I can tell you in this industry, the biggest killer is the cost of sales.
So Rajiv, in that light, is there a case that you would be reviewing your prices or perhaps upping prices as well in the near term?
In the near term, I would say no. Over the course of this year, in the first 10 months, we've had 2 or 3 price corrections. Sometimes due to commodities, sometimes because of the withdrawal of DEPB, for example. So that's been done when it was necessary. There are no obvious significant pressures right now that would force our hand. And having said that, if you were to look at the brands that I just mentioned, each of those brands in their respective categories is also pretty much a price leader, and at the very least it is priced on par with competition. And in the end, to me, that is the proof of the pudding. A brand is not a brand if it doesn't have pricing power in the marketplace. So since we are at par or at a slight premium to competition, I don't think we have the opportunity to increase prices in the short term, as you say. And frankly, we don't need to. A 21% EBITDA is very nice. Thank you.
Right. So given the way how dynamics of the two-wheeler industry are changing, who has the pricing power? Bajaj Auto or the customer?
The pricing power is always an outcome of the strategy of the manufacturer. And the pricing power does not rest with Bajaj Auto, nor does it, in my view, with Hero Motors or TVS or Honda. Pricing power rests with the consumer's brand. So in the sports segment of motorcycles, pricing power is with the Pulsar. In the 100cc motorcycles, it's with the Splendor and the Passion. When it comes to mopeds, it's with the TVS XL. When it comes to scooters, it's with the Honda Activa. And these products are all products which have one thing in common. They were not created to serve an existing market. They were created basis a strategy of differentiation. The Splendor at its time, the Pulsar later, the Activa after that are all products that were unlike anything that existed in the marketplace. And this market rewards only such a strategy of differentiation.
Rajiv, let's talk about your export and domestic pie. What is going to be the ratio like from a longer term perspective? And when I say longer term, I mean 3 to 5 years from now.
Yeah. The short answer to that, Aisha, would be that we certainly expect exports to outstrip domestic volumes. About 5 years back, we said that since 80% of the two-wheeler market lay outside India, it would stand to reason that 80% of our sales should eventually come from outside India. That was 5 years ago. In 5 years, our exports have grown by about 6 times. And from being close to zero, exports now represent 35% of everything we make. We hope to export over 1.5 million vehicles this year of the 4.4 million that we expect to close with. And we expect exports to record about 6,500 crores in terms of revenues. As you undoubtedly know, over the year, exports have grown by, I think, about 30%. Whereas domestic growth is barely in double digits. And I think this trend will continue because whether it's motorcycles or three-wheelers, we have enormous traction from all the markets that we are in, whether it's in Asia or Africa or Latin. And in the kind of time frame that you indicated, I would certainly expect exports to become bigger than domestic sales.
Given the way, Rajiv, how Chinese currency has appreciated against the dollar, the rupee has depreciated against the dollar, Chinese wages have gone up, do you think Chinese bikes are no longer competitive and Indian bikes now enjoy a global edge?
Well, we have always believed that even before the Forex movements. Simply because there is a place for everything in this world. There is a place for the KTM at the upper end of the pyramid. There is a place for cheap Chinese stuff at the bottom of the pyramid. And the middle of the pyramid was so far dominated by the 4 Japanese all over the world. It is only now that Indian companies like Hero and Bajaj are able to stand up and compete in this mid-space. And I have not seen so far in any of our export markets over the last 10 years that the Chinese have in any way been really a threat to a product like a Pulsar or a Discover, no more than a Pulsar is a threat to a KTM. People in the end don't buy products as much as they buy perceptions and positions. Having said that, a more specific answer, Nikunj, would be this. That let's take Nigeria, our largest export market, where we sell over 30,000 motorcycles. Our leading Chinese competitor sells for 65,000 nairas, that's the local currency. Bajaj sells for 107,000 nairas. So, you know, we are already more than 50% more expensive than the leading Chinese competitor. So the last 5% that one may gain or even lose in terms of Forex movement really does not upset the strategy. Despite being at a premium of 50%, we are the market leader in the marketplace, which tells me that irrespective of whether your market is Lagos or New Delhi, consumers appreciate a better product even if it is at a premium.
Rajiv, since you're so gung-ho on export and that really being the bigger kicker for Bajaj Auto in the longer term, when you say exports, what exactly is your model going to be? Export out of India or set up plants in the target markets or a combination of both?
Well, clearly it has to be a combination because circumstances are different in different places. One leg of exports is the export of KTM motorcycles. As much as we hope to sell 20-25,000 domestically, we expect to export an equal number. So in this case, of course, this will all be exported out of India. That's why KTM is being made here, to take advantage of the cost structure of India. When we export our own brands like Pulsar and Discover and the RE, there are countries to which we export them pretty much all assembled, what we call as SKD. But then there are many other countries, including our neighbors in Sri Lanka, Bangladesh, and many of the African countries, and even as far as the Philippines, where Kawasaki is our partner, and Colombia, where we have a wonderful distributor, where there is a lot of localization, certainly in terms of assembly, but also sometimes in terms of painting, etc. For example, the Kawasaki plant at KMPC Philippines adds a lot of value to our product. So it's really a question of horses for courses.
And finally, Rajiv, for the year 2011, from Bajaj Auto, we got strong numbers, new launches, and strong sales. For the year 2012, what should we expect from Bajaj Auto? And my follow-up question is that for the year 2012, is there anything at all which is giving you sleepless nights?
Well, let me say this. In the last 3 years have been great for us, since July 2009 to be precise. And although we've had a wonderful run in terms of all the numbers that you know well, so I won't get into that, I personally believe the next 3 years will be better for Bajaj than the last 3. And I'll tell you why. 3 years ago, we were just about beginning to put our house in order. Pulsar was not the brand it is today. Discover certainly was not. You know, today we are at 120,000 Discovers a month. At that time, we were barely at 15,000 Discovers a month. Three-wheelers, the RE was not the brand it is today in terms of volume and in terms of the product pipeline we have. And I think Bajaj was not, in a way, if I read between the lines that you're speaking, Bajaj was not the company that it is today. Today we are on a much stronger footing with these 3 very strong brands. Exports have moved ahead a lot in the last 3 years, and we have a fabulous product pipeline, going into just the next financial year. The KTM was launched last month, and we start dispatches any day now. The Pulsar, the new Pulsar we showed last week, and that rolls off the assembly lines in early April. And then we have just a wonderful, wonderful product to put into the marketplace in June. That's another motorcycle, I can tell you that for the first time. And if a company has 3 strong growth engines right at the start of the financial year, then I think that can, take the story forward very nicely. And I personally believe, at least in terms of potential, what happens eventually, only God knows and time will tell. But in terms of potential, the next 3 years for Bajaj can be bigger than the last 3 years have been.